Welcome to Never Rewrite. I'm Isaac Askew.
And I'm Jeffrey Sherman. And today we're going to talk about token-based billing is nuts. So, on this show, we are longtime fans of a guy named Jonathan Stark. He wrote a book almost 20 years ago called Hourly Billing is Nuts,
Mm-hmm.
where he talks about how hourly billing, developers who charge hourly, but it works for any industry where they charge hourly, it creates this tension where the provider and the buyer are not on the same side. And it creates this tension, and you get worse results, and they're more expensive, and everyone is unhappy all the time. And therefore, his solution in the book is you should switch to value based billing.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought now, it's June 2026, and the GitLab has switched from monthly plans to tokens for their billing. And I'm watching Blue Sky explode as people discover that their $70 plan now costs $4,000, or they've now spent $4,000 instead of their $70 plan. And the arguments, the anguish that is coming out, it resonated with in my head. I'm like, oh, this is exactly the same thing that Jonathan Stark was talking about. And so I thought we could go through the major points that he makes and debate whether it's exactly the same problem.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So again, these are the discussion of how the billing model makes you adversaries with the provider. So if you're going to pay for tokens, instead of like an all-you-can-eat plan or just a fixed price to solve a problem, the first problem is there is no guarantee that you're going to get anything of value from your spend.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And this puts the pressure, it puts the onus on you as the requester. Like, now you are responsible. If you ask whatever you're talking about, so Copilot, since we're talking about GitLab or GitHub, if you ask Copilot to do something and it does the thing and that was the wrong thing, that's a you problem, right?
Yeah.
Copilot's got Microsoft, as the owner of Copilot, has no skin in the game to interpret your request as anything other than literal.
Mm-hmm.
You ask it to do something, it does it. If it's the wrong thing, spend more money.
I see where you're going with this.
Right? And this is the same thing that, Isaac, you've done more consulting than I have, but if you get a customer who asks you to do something and you just do it without asking enough questions and pushing back, and you deliver it and it's not what they want, how do they feel about that?
Well, they're pretty annoyed, and they're like, where's the value in this?
Yes. and I've been here as well, where I'm like, well, this is the thing that you asked me to do,
Mm-hmm.
and it does this, and it solves the problem that you described to me. And they're like, but it's not useful.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
No, yeah, I was taking a breath to agree with you, essentially.
so to me, you have this now, by paying for tokens, you have recreated the same dichotomy of it's no longer anyone's, because when it was an all-you-can-eat plan, Microsoft had some skin in the game, at least, of, well, if you ask me a question and I deliver what you've asked for, but not what you want, you're going to ask me a second question, and I'm going to have to do the request again. It's going to cost me, Microsoft, money to redo it. So I am now incentivized to figure out what you really want and not just what you've asked me.
Right.
Okay. Moving on to Jonathan's second point, it would be a mistake if you are selling tokens, or in this case, or hours. It would be in your best interests, or it would be against your best interests to optimize any of your flow. Right. One of his big analogies is, well, if you bought a faster computer that lets you compile the software faster or lets you work faster, it would cost you money. Right. So as a consultant, if I spent $2,000 on a computer and it made me 20% faster because my code compiles faster and everything else, and I'm billing by the hour, I just cut my hours by 20% and I spent money to do it. And that's not in my interest.
Yep.
But it's in the customer's interest, right? So again, same problem here with tokens is anything. It now, if you're paying for tokens, it's no longer in Microsoft's interest to make their tokens more efficient.
Yep. So I've ran into something similar. I don't know if you want to go through all the points.
Yeah.
Care if I just interject?
Interject.
Okay. I've gone through something similar, just playing around with both Claude and Codex. So I ended up spinning up. I wanted to try both of them out, so I ended up buying the plan for each, and quickly realized, like the monthly plan for each, and quickly realized with the basic plan that you hit the limits quickly. And by limits, for anyone who hasn't used the monthly plans for these, there's to begin with, there's these arbitrary limits for how much you can use the software, and it's just, here's your 5-hour limit. You can use a lot of compute at this time, and you can set it to like max thinking or a different model that costs more or whatever, but you just got this arbitrary 5-hour limit depending on how much you're using. Or the
is that a sliding window, or is it like you started at 9, so that window ends at 2, and then at 2:05 you can
yeah. If you max out in that 5-hour window, then you have to spend your own tokens that you have to buy separately to continue, or you can just wait. But that's changed a lot. At first, I don't remember the 5-hour window was. I don't remember when that was introduced. But for a while, there was like this fun Wild West era where what I did was I bought the 20x plan for each, basically, which is $200 a month. Because I was like, I'm going to use this a lot. Let me see. Assuming I get a ton done, $200 is not that much if you think about it. So
no, it's nothing for relative to developer costs.
Right, exactly. And so I just had a ton of stuff going. And I remember that early on, like, I don't know, maybe 2 months ago, I was just like building like crazy. Because like it felt like the spin was unlimited. That's what it felt like, because I didn't hit any limits at the time. I could get a lot of coding done and not hit the limits at 20x. And then it changed to where suddenly there was a little more limits. New models came out that seemed to eat up more tokens than usual or be more expensive. So your window limit would get, it was like they're using us as the A/B test to see just how far they can push you, because you don't know what they're doing or how expensive this really is in the back end. They're just saying that. It's almost like they were testing out how much it would cost you, the user.
So do you feel like they shrunk the limits, or the newer models just needed more tokens?
Yes.
Or both? Both.
I'm not sure. Or they just was like, they just had a button that's just like, yep, you're at your window. Because we decided, but you couldn't tell, right? There was not much insight. And there's a ton of very funny commentary on like the Claude communities and stuff in Reddit about the newer models being terrible and eating up your window. Like, you'd ask it a question, or like they were joking about, so I'm almost like penalizing you for thinking. Usually you say thanks, Claude, like as a joke, but like it would spend your entire limit to say thank you.
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, a token is a token.
A token,
regardless,
a token.
It's unrelated to value.
So I ended up like looking up all this stuff for like ways to optimize cost, because what I noticed is once you would exhaust that limit, if I wanted to keep working, like especially because I'm like, I'm about to go to the gym, but I want this thing to keep working autonomously. Dang, I hit my limit. I should have thought about this different. Okay, I'll spend a little bit extra money to put some, like, spend $250 worth of tokens in the tank, so to speak. That way I can have it going autonomously for me while I'm at the gym, because I want this thing to get done, and it's still worth money to me. And that's when I noticed how much it was actually eating up if I spent $250 versus token-wise. This is the hourly billing. Versus what I thought was the value. For $200 a month, I get this incredible thing. But compared to how much it ate up of just tokens after this, $200 limit, it was quite different. Like the economics were completely different. And I ran into a similar thing with Codex too. Had the same 20x plan. They have a kind of like a similar setup with limit windows and all that kind of jazz.
Right. Yeah, I mean that's one of his critical points is when you're buying hours or tokens, you don't know how much something's going to cost until you're done, which then makes it very hard to judge whether it was worth it. right?
Right.
If you've got an all you can eat plan, or if you've got a 20x plan or whatever, you can say, okay, this is going to cost me $200 a month, and I can get a pretty decent concept of whether or not that's going to provide enough value to me. But if you're like, I want to
Right.
get this done today, and I have to pay tokens, maybe it was worth $250 to me, maybe not, but I don't even know if $250 will get the job done.
Right. And then when I had the open Wild West kind of, oh, I can do anything with this and I never hit my
Mm-hmm.
limits, that let me keep talking and like fine tuning because I didn't really know how to engage with Claude yet.
Mm-hmm.
What are some ways it'll screw up? What are some limits you can give it such that it gets the job done better or faster? Lately, I've had to almost tell it every time, audit your response to me, and it'll go, oh, I overstated this almost every single time. Right. So like there's like this weird engagement where I have to like, can you double check what you just did? And then I'll even tell it before you even get back to me, double check. And it goes, okay. And it still doesn't do it. So I have to keep telling it each time. So like there's like weird ways to engage with it, right? And whenever it was $200 a month, the value based, and I didn't hit any limits,
Mm-hmm.
then that gave me complete freedom to play around and like, oh, that wasn't what I wanted from you. Let me reapproach that so I get the value that I'm looking for out of this. And then once
Mm-hmm.
it swapped to 250 in tokens that just like get exhausted quickly, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. I got to be really careful about, the genie wish here
Yeah.
because it's quite expensive if I get it wrong. It costs me money to undo it.
And that feels very much the same way it is if you hired a developer to work hourly.
Mm-hmm.
Of, you might have some idea of like, oh, I've got this problem. Can you fix it? And they might say yes or no. But if you're paying a developer by the hour, you might have to clarify. Don't spend more than 2 hours on this. It's not
Right.
worth it.
And
Or spend an
that
hour figuring it out and then come back to me.
yes, if you don't set those kind of limits there, especially like, I mean, I've heard this story on Reddit. It probably wasn't true, but they were talking about how one company spent like, $500,000. Just one of those silly developers let Claude keep running and billing and spend $500,000 in a day. And later, I read some other thing about how that was overstated or a myth or whatever. But I could see that happening.
Yeah.
I could see and even with me like not through Claude spending, but like writing a dumb script that built Google Places. I've had it accidentally bill me $200 for Google Places because it told me how much something cost. It lied to me about how much it costs to use
Mm.
this particular query for Google Places, and it was actually Google Places Enterprise version because I asked for some particular field that's not available in the basic version. For like if you're making the API request, but if you request some of those other fields, Google charges you differently. It
Ah.
costs more,
So
and so it costs a lot more for that request than Claude let on. And I'm like, oh man, imagine doing this at scale.
yeah.
I've got a limit on my Google Cloud thing because I guess it didn't cost me any money because technically it was I had $200 in free credit and no billing thing attached, so it just used my free credit on that.
And then it
But
stopped.
imagine if it wasn't there. Imagine if it's just a
Right.
card that's just, or I see this a lot in Claude. Like, there's an option to automatically re-up your credits once you get to
Yeah.
one thing. Like, imagine if you just keep exhausting it and it keeps re-upping.
Yeah.
And I'm sure some people have run into that, or crazy API expensive requests that Claude has written an infinite loop to keep billing you for. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's really similar to an unbounded developer, and you haven't told them, okay, make sure you only spend 2 hours on this. Don't work overnight because AI can and bill me for all
Right.
of those hours overnight.
Well, this goes also to something we've covered before, where it's also a developer who has no concept of the costs.
Yes.
Where
Yep. Right. Right.
I have definitely in my career seen this of developers have no idea what something costs, and so they build a solution, and that solution is 10x more expensive than it needed to be because they had no idea that any of this stuff was expensive. And
Yep.
once you told them, "Oh, this is way too expensive. Can we use these cheaper ways of getting the exact same answer?" Like, "Oh yeah, sure." If I'd known it was expensive, I wouldn't have done it this way.
That's a really good point, and I've definitely run into some, at least one DevOps engineer that I've talked to, and they've architected this really beautiful system. And I'm like, well, how much does this cost? And they're like, like to run this? And they're like, I don't know, but it's the right way to get it done. And I'm like, what? No, the right way to get it done is how much you can afford, dude. Like, it's nothing to do with if it's beautifully architected if I can't afford to run it,
Yeah.
But that wasn't what they were getting at. They were just thinking, okay, if we're building this kind of queue system or this or that or scaling this, they knew how to make a really well architected thing. But if they're getting paid by Google, sure, you got a lot of money to work with. If you're not profitable yet and you're going to have layoffs if you don't get something going soon, then no, that is not a good solution. So that context is very valuable. And that's still the same thing in previous episodes. We've discussed like what will set you apart from that person who takes the acceptance criteria literally. And he's like, oh, I got it done. But he doesn't like think about the context, the bigger context. Claude still is doing better at it, but it still needs that bigger context of, be careful about how much this costs. And to remember that. It's almost like you'd want to put that in the Claude MD file if it would ever keep reading it, because it ignores it half the time in my experience, to make sure that it stays in those guidelines or it doesn't architect something silly.
Yeah, like in my day job, I'm using Devon AI a lot. And one thing I have it do, which is really good, is I say, here's a problem, search the code base for all instances of this problem, and create a epic level Jira ticket that describes the problem and points out all the here all the instances, and then under that epic create a subtask for each instance so that we can clean it up. And Devon does a great job at that. But I notice that in there, like in the prompt script, it talks about it has to load understanding of Jira and understanding of Markdown and all this stuff. And I wondered to myself every time I do it, I'm like, I wonder how much cheaper this would be if I told this to just give me Markdown files and I copy pasted it into Jira, if that would save money and be more effective. But I'm not paying for tokens, and my company's not worried about tokens at the moment. So I don't know. But to me in my head, because I'm an optimizer, I'm like, I wonder if I'm just burning tokens here.
And eventually people will care.
Eventually,
I think we've seen some people like Uber and Microsoft already cut costs. Going well, Microsoft was different because they're going, we're going to cut Claude here because it's the beginning of the year, and they're going to cut it before they renew, and they want people to use theirs Copilot. So they were, I think they were like basically they were wondering why all their developers loved Claude so much and were not using their own tool. And I think they were using that as an experiment to understand why they liked it, so they can build it in house. And I don't know if you followed this past week where they were just yesterday they released a new tool, but I think they're going the correct way with it, and by that I mean everyone's blowing up now with ChatGPT and Claude, and then freaking out when
the bill comes.
DeepSeek or something else comes out and undermines them with their open source software. But I think that's what we're going to get at eventually. The competitors are going to shrink. There's only going to be a few out there. They're going to start charging exorbitant prices or illegally price fixing in some fashion. And then people are going to go, well, wait a minute. And they have already been doing this. I can just host it on my own Mac Studio with this open source version of OpenLlama or whatever.
Right. And it's not as good, but the value proposition is better.
But it's essentially, you're just paying for the cost to run your own local one. And it's slow and not as good, but new models come out that are better. But if you're your own company and you don't have the money to spend, or these companies start charging you too much for it, or maybe they're not even charging you too much for it. Maybe actually just this entire time we've been paying the subsidized cost because they're trying to get everyone to use it.
Yeah, right? I think that fundamentally that's the economics of what's going on is it was all subsidized to get people to use it, and now the subsidies are ending.
And everyone's going, well, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
This is supposed to replace the developer. Now it's the same cost as the developer in some cases.
Right, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of the
worst context.
Yeah, and that's, I think, part of the thing turning on, developers are going to be fine over the long term. Just the short term that's been the problem of, but once this could replace a developer, but it's by the time you fully load the costs, it's as much as a developer and it's not as good.
Right. And I've actually already seen a case of this where I was kind of like uh, lurking in
Mm-hmm.
a Slack room, for lack of
Mm-hmm.
better terms, and I saw an issue, and I knew what the issue was. I didn't have time to respond to it because I was just like in transit essentially, and before I could even respond, as I'm like going through, I was going to the gym or doing something. Whenever I finally checked the thread out, a lot of people had talked in this thread, and one person was like, "Well, I asked Claude, and Claude says this," and it explained what was going on for this particular bug. And I read it, and I'm like, "That is the absolute wrong answer," because I knew the system, and I'm like, "That is not what you should do." And they're like, "Oh, we're going to delete this record so this thing happens," and I'm like, "Okay, well, one, I'm not part of this right now. I'm just going to play it through." But they just came up with the wrong answer and just trusted it blindly and ran with it. And I'm like, I I expect that from people who are not tech savvy.
Yeah.
And the people who were responding here were like seasoned engineers, and I was like really disappointed in the idea they would just run with the first thing Claude said here because it was absolutely not correct. And I'm like, oh my god, these guys. So the context is still important. Developers
Yes.
are still important here. Now everyone might be like, for now, it's going to get better, and the economics are going to get
True.
cheaper.
It will
And
get
I'm
better.
sure
I
they will.
expect it will.
But you know, I still, if Claude was writing code and I had to rely on it to launch me into space without my ship
Mhm.
blowing up, I would not get on that ship
I would not get on that ship.
at all. And it might be another 10 or 20 years. And even still, I would be like, but we had somebody review this, right? Please don't make
Yeah.
me get on the ship yet.
I get terrible motion sick. I'm never getting on the ship. But I won't let my kids on the ship either.
There you go.
Yes.
Are there any
All right.
other
So
point? Yeah. Are there any other Jonathan Stark points that
I mean, I think we
equates to it?
got the top ones of there's no relationship between spend and value. You don't know what anything costs
Mm-hmm.
until it's done, so you don't know if it's going to be worth it. And there's no incentive for the vendor to do things efficiently because that hurts their bottom line.
Right.
In this case, the only thing that would, in both cases, the only thing that constrains them is the free market, right? If they're too expensive, you'll go somewhere else. But other than that, they should be as inefficient as possible. It's in their
Right.
interest to be as inefficient as possible. Yeah. So
Oh,
answer the
well,
question. Well,
I was about to say actually that was, I was on half a thought from earlier when I was like, I think this is what Microsoft got right
hmm.
or is getting right. Not just the cutting costs, but like the incentive thing you're talking about here is
Yeah.
Microsoft now, or these other companies, they want to make sure that they understand your request right.
Mm-hmm.
They, I mean, because now they're not, then you get pissed off, right? Going, I spent how much on this, and they don't
Yeah.
look good, right? So that's when they're just spending time to make sure they understand your request better and the models are better. But also, the new computers they're shipping out. They're trying to get them, like I think they have the new NVIDIA um, GPUs, or I think actually CPUs too, if I'm not mistaken. The game, like they were going to get in the CPU game. But either way, they're partnering with
Yeah, I saw that.
Microsoft to get essentially it on your own computer, your own AI assistant on your own computer, hosted on your own computer, right? So
Right.
I think, yeah, over time they understand that these models need to be really personalized to you and self-hosted to be as fast and efficient without you getting pissed off and wasting time because I'm a stupid human who can't spend time understanding how to formulate my request perfectly to this thing so now it can help me out.
Well, if it's running on your computer and your hardware, then it's back to the same value proposition for development that it always has, which is, hey, you've got a machine and it can compile at a certain speed. And if you want
Right.
it to be more efficient, get a better machine with more compilation. It'll compile faster.
Yep.
Run your models locally. You can run as much as you want because it's on your hardware and your stuff. You're paying for it, and you know how
Right.
much electricity costs or reasonably. And so that it pushes it back. It gets Microsoft and the vendor out of the equation. Like instead of
Right.
that you being on the other side of it, it's like, oh, well, here's some software. We're selling it to you or it's free because it's open source or something. You run it on your hardware and we are no longer part of the discussion. And therefore, you're not going to be angry at us because we're not in this thing to be angry at.
Yep. And I think you'll see that across every industry too, because
Mm-hmm.
hosting it on your own computer or in your own, like, people, again, like back in the day we had your own server racks, right? And then it went to the
Right.
cloud. And now I think we're going to go back to this kind of concept of, oh, we have the local AI here because it's HIPAA compliant, it's secure, there's privacy to worry about.
Right.
We're going to have, what, like at your hospital, there'll probably be a server room with an AI thing that can understand records, but it's locked down. I bet you we see an explosion of rack space, essentially. A lot of people having their own self-hosted models
Mm-hmm.
because of that value
And there you
over
have
time.
private clouds.
Yeah, especially
Yeah.
for privacy and security. But yeah, so I think that delivers the value back there. So I think that's why I think Microsoft's being clever here, is to kind of swap back the
Right.
value to the user.
So we're saying that would move you away from token-based billing to almost shrink-wrap software. But I'm sure it would be more of a subscription-based of, you always get the latest models. It'll be $100 a year or something, just like Office 365 or whatever.
Yeah, and they'll probably up the cost of Windows, or it's built in, or maybe it's built into the Windows subscription. You know, like, they'll find a way to monetize it, but
Yeah,
it won't be
they'll-
anything crazy like $4,000 a month
Right, because it won't cost them anything when you run questions.
on your own computer. Yep.
Right. They're back to sending software. Awesome. So is token-based billing nuts?
Yes.
Awesome. Thank you all for listening. I'm Jeffrey Sherman.
And I'm Isaac Askew, and this is Never Rewrite.